Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Nabin Park. I'm a co-founder and co-director of PrideFull. To briefly describe myself in audio, I'm a non-binary East Asian person in my 20s. I have light green hair, long light green hair that I let down. I'm wearing a white t-shirt and a black blazer. I use all pronouns, including they, he, she, and ze. Welcome to the 2021 PrideFull Shorts Virtual Q&A co-presented with $3 Bill Cinema, Queer Women of Color Media Arts Project, or QUACMOP, and API Rainbow Parents of PFLAG NYC. Tonight we have a big panel. We are joined by 4 amazing film directors, director of Cohabitation, Tung, director of Abeo, Bren López Zepeda, director of My Beautiful Resistance, Penny Baldado, and director of the Migrant Mixtape, Tahchi. Corey Dosti is live captioning tonight's event, and Carmela Falu is doing an ASL interpretation. PrideFull is a film screening series by and for queer and trans people of color, or QTPOC. We strive to provide an open, safe space for the QTPOC community, and especially for those who are filmmakers, artists, and art lovers. Tonight is the closing night of the 2021 PrideFull series. For the past 3 weeks, we have hosted a free panel talk, 10 films, and live Q&As, all available virtually. The theme of this year's series was Stories of Queer Diasporas, The Journey in Search of Blank, bringing a timely yet universal conversation about migration, immigration, and alienation in queer diasporas. Before we start, I'd like to thank everyone who made this program possible. I'd like to first thank the PrideFull team, Juhi Oh and Isaiah Alexander. I'm so proud of you both. And I'm so proud of us. Thank you, Juhi, for leading our programming and communication and always motivating us to move forward. And thank you, Isaiah, for bringing your insights and expertise to the programming team. I'm so grateful that I was able to work with you too. For anyone who's watching virtually live, I invite you to join me and give a round of applause to Juhi and Isaiah. I would also like to thank everyone who has worked with us for this year's series. A huge thanks to Jiwon Che, our trailer editor. Thank you for the captioners, Jack Kellner and Corey Dosti. Thank you to our ASL interpreters, Kat Ridley, Benny Yamas, Eric Escareno, and Carmela Fallo. The 2021 PrideFull series would have not been possible without amazing independent filmmakers who brought their stories of queer diasporas to the world. I sincerely thank QTPOC filmmakers, storytellers, and word changers. I'd like to thank our partners who have supported us in so many ways. Thank you to $3 Bill Cinema, Encopia, DCTV, API Rainbow Parents of PFLAG NYC, QUACMOP, Creatively Speaking, Pride Asia, Aglyph, Third World Newsreel, and Northwest Film Forum. Lastly, I'd like to thank all of our generous individual donors and audience members. Thank you all for making this happen. It's bittersweet that we came to the last night of this season, but it's not the end of PrideFull. Please stay tuned for more programming next year. Follow us on our socials at PrideFull Film with double L's for full, or our website, pridefull.org, also with double L's. I'd like to introduce our co-presenter Clara Lee from API Rainbow Parents of PFLAG NYC. Clara, I invite you to say a few words, starting with a description, a visual description of yourself and your background.
Sure, this is Clara. I go by she, her, hers. And for those who are not able to see, I'm an Asian woman in their 50s. I'm giving away my age, but with the short hair. and a glass and with light beige top. And my background on my Zoom is basically is about diversity and the inclusion. And this is coming from the people like New York City with a number of people with a different color or race. And some of them are showing some rainbow color flags. And Naveen, should I go ahead and introduce the API Rainbow
Yeah,
Parent? Yes, I would go ahead
please.
and do that. So I personally myself is a mother of a 26 years old son who identifies as a queer bisexual with a transgender experience. And through him, I always think of my son as a gift from God because through him I was able to meet other supportive parents, and I was able to have start the API Rainbow Parent as a special program under PIFLAG New York City, the parents and family and friends of LGBTQ people in New York City chapter. And we were founded to create a safe space for the parents or the family or friends of LGBTQ people from the Asian background. And we've been in existence for past 10 years. And next year, we will also celebrate our 10th year anniversary. We do have a lot of programming to support the LGBTQ individuals as well as parents. We have a monthly support meeting on every second Sunday, virtually these days. And we love to be out there to advocate on behalf of our children, especially in the Asian the event. For example, Lunar New Year, we always are out there doing a parade with other API LGBTQ people. And as well as during the Pride Month, we walk with them because we want to show to the world that there are parents and allies who support Asian LGBTQ people. And then I think that's how I met Naveen and Julie. And I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to support this amazing program like PrideFull. And we hope and we look forward to continue to have the partnership going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clara, for your speech and for what you do. I think, chosen family is the recurring theme of this year's series. And I think just for any queer and QTPOC films, that's also for all this shorts program, the films in our shorts program too. We always talk about chosen family, and we strive to hear more stories about chosen family. And API Rainbow Parents of PFLAG NYC is already doing what you do by giving the space and giving the support. And actually, I'm so glad that I found Clara here in New York, where I'm based in. She was like one of the first person that I was luckily found as part of my queer chosen family in New York. So just personal thank you, and thank you from PrideFull team. Because it's a short event, we ask our audience to type in your questions as the panel is happening using the Q&A box instead of the chat box, and we'll answer them coming down to the end. You can also choose to verbally speak by clicking the raise your hand button and wait until Isaiah gives you access to turn on your video and mic and speak. Please also note that this event is being recorded and it will be shared with the public later. If you have any questions about the program or are having technical issues, please ask the PrideFull team in the chat or Q&A box. That was a long speech. Wei, Bren, Penny, and Ellie, I am very excited to talk with you about your films. I like to start by asking everyone to briefly introduce your name and the film you directed, and describe the visual information about you and your background. Anyone could go first.
I can start. So hi, my name is Bren López. My pronouns are she, they. And to describe myself, I am a white skinned lady wearing a black t-shirt with blue grayish hair and glasses, headphones, and my background is the poster of Abeo, so you can see a sunset sky with some cactus in the front.
Hello.
Thank you. Ellie, yes.
Yes, hello everyone. So excited. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Jean Tahchi. I go with the pronouns he and him. I'm a French, Canadian, Lebanese filmmaker based in Montreal. And I'm presenting my short documentary, The Migrant Mixtape. I'm wearing a sweatshirt with the black, with beige and red, with the serpent on the left, I guess. And I'm in my bedroom around me. So yeah, thank you.
I can go next. Hello, good evening. My name is Penny Baldado. I am a Filipino trans masculine queer person. I made the film My Beautiful Resistance in 2013. I'm wearing a white shirt with some gold chains. I have in my background, I'm sitting on a blue chair with white and light brown wall panels.
Hey everyone, my name is Wei Yi, and I'm my English is not so good. I'm from Malaysia, and I'm an Asian, and I'm now living in Taipei, which I study filmmaking here, and I'm wearing a blue shirt and glasses, and with a headphone. Yeah, I'm here to present my short film named A Cohabitation. Yeah, and thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. My first question for everyone is, how did you start your film? And maybe we could just follow the order. So, Bren, how did you start with Abeo?
Yes. So Abeo is a short film that I did for my last year in university. So it was 2017 that I started working on it, and it was a year-ish after the 2016 election, where I think that we can all remember how the xenophobia with the Trump campaign was going off the rails. So, and I am not from the US. I am originally from Mexico, and I am now living in Montreal. But it was a weird thing to be like from two places that are like on top and the bottom of the US, and how both countries are so affected by the US in all aspects, right? And that also we tend to import a lot of hate from the US, unfortunately, here in Canada, that we can see from since 2016 to lately, still a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment that's still very present. So all of those things were happening in my mind at the time when we were thinking about what our last project was going to be, what our last university project was going to be. And so I started just doing more research into the very vast history that has always been like the conflict between the Mexico and the US border. And specifically lately around just like what the journey would be for what the journey has been for immigrants to cross the desert. I then started asking around because I know people who have gone through that journey, and so I did some interviews and research, and that's how I started like constructing the film. And I wanted to approach it in a way that was hopefully a little bit more human. So just it is fiction, but it's based on a lot of people's stories. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you for sharing that. And like as you said, even if you started making the film in 2017, that's still so relatable until today. So thank you so much for sharing that. Ellie, do you want to go next? How did you start with the migrant mixtape?
Yes, sure. Well, it started like in 2015, 2016. I was contacted by an organization in Montreal called Helem Montreal. It's an organization to defend and to help the LGBT Arab-speaking community in Montreal. So in 2015, the Canadian government just announced that he wants to help people in Syria, especially women and children and LGBT individuals, to come as refugee to Canada. And the organization Helem found this announcement a little bit weird for the LGBT community, because how these people that are used to live in the closet will like come out to come as refugee. Like it wasn't so logical. So they wanted to make a documentary about this process of becoming a refugee to Canada. So I was contacted. I was also a member of the Helem Montreal. So we started working on this documentary. We started gathering lots of letters sent to Helem people from different Arab countries asking for help to escape the discrimination and the homophobia and the persecution also in the Arab countries, and to come here. And we found also our protagonist, Adib, who tells us his story, his struggles from coming out to his parents in Syria, to all the difficulties during his childhood, to how he like became an LGBT refugee in Canada. So yeah, I made it like the film was finished like during the 2017.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that was actually one of my questions I had for you, was like how, the relationship, like how did you get contacted with Helen Montreal? So thank you so much for sharing that. And I will be back with a little more details about your film. But next, Penny, I'm really curious because it was from 2013, right? How did you get started with your film, My Beautiful Resistance?
Um, I believe everything happens for a reason, and I feel and I believe and I'm grounded in um, a way wherein my ancestors guide me. During the time 2012, 2013, I was still an undocumented immigrant. And I just broke up with my longtime partner, and I had a cafe in downtown Oakland. And it was, in some ways, really a dark period for me. I felt like I was living in two places, wherein as a small business owner, I'm really kind of like out in the community, but there is a secret behind it, which is like in some ways my own safety of being undocumented. And I felt alone and isolated. And if I can remember correctly, it was like 2012. I'm like, I wanna learn a new skill, and hopefully, being connected with community and date other people. And I and that was my intention. But I know now that I'm being guided, So I enrolled in Quackma, and started, learning about the filmmaking process. And with that intention of like, probably marketing my business a little bit and having dates in the community. But it turned out to be different. It turned out that I was being guided to tell my story. and to tell my truth. And during that time also, I was in the process of applying for my asylum. And I felt like the filmmaking process helped me process um, the shame and the fear that I've like um, buried so deep in me, so I can survive uh, in this country as an undocumented immigrant. And I felt like the process of the film, like helped me with the process of like my asylum case. And that's how I started making, like how I made the film, is I'm going through that process in this way and creating, the truth telling and sharing a part of my story.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it's a surprise that you that it was not your original intention to like make your story, and because this is such a beautiful film, and it's really your personal story, but also that's something that a lot of other immigrants and refugees and like anyone who has diasporic experience can relate to. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Wei, how did you start with the cohabitation?
Oh yeah, it's this film was filmed 2 years ago, and it is the final project of my first year in graduate school. And at that time, Taiwan has legalized same-sex marriage, so it's kind of have a lot of news. And but there are some foreigners, they can get married with their Taiwan partners, because if their country doesn't legalize gay marriage, they cannot marry. They still cannot marry. Yeah, and as a foreigner in Taiwan, and also my screenwriter, he's also a Malaysia, so we kind of try to talk about this thing, the unfairness of the same-sex marriage. And also actually we feel that actually outside of Taipei city, the main city of Taiwan, uh, actually most Taiwanese people are not so friendly to gay people, LGBT people. So we kind of want to uh, express these feelings, and also the fear of being alienated in this film. I will try to express this feeling.
Thank you for sharing that. And as you said, I think in the director's statement, um, the act that deport foreign HIV carriers was amended in 2015, but still, as you said, there are the homophobic culture around the country, and I'm so glad that you made the story available to the world. I'll go around and ask a few more questions because I have a lot of questions for everyone. Um, Maybe I'll just go the other way around this time. So wait, uh, I was curious, like, were there any specific subjects that, you thought about when making this, building your characters, or for your screenwriters to write the story?
Yeah, because me and my screenwriter, we are both Malaysian, so we kind of set our main character as the same. Yeah, he's also a Malaysian, and I think we both of us discuss about the fear of getting infected. Yeah, it's kind of like we feel like this kind of fear is also because of the society, their they treat very bad about this kind of people. They think this kind of sick is a crime. Yeah. So we try to put this into our characters. So to express the feeling of being alienated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. But like you bring up, you know, that you wanted to express the fear. But I had a feeling that still the film ended in, you know, with a hope. Um, I mean, I would consider it as like a type of happy ending. Is there a reason that you decide on that ending?
Yeah. There's kind of hope in this ending because we discussed about this with our professor. Uh, our professor suggests us to say that put some love because she's both all of us think that love can overcome all of the obstacles. Yeah, and that's also what I'm trying to bring out. Love is very powerful, and it's not how to say, it's not bound by sex, yeah, and gender.
Absolutely. And thank you so much because I really love that the film had a happy ending, you know, with a hope and with the statement about the amendment. You know, that's because, you know, it's not all about the fear. There's still, you know, hope. The world is changing. So thank you so much. Penny, I wanted to ask you about the editing style because one of the things that I really loved about My Beautiful Resistance is some scenes with the super close-ups of yourself. And I feel like that made the film really feel very personal. I wanted to ask you like why did you make such editing decisions?
That's such a great question. Thank you. I felt like I had um, to, in some ways, humanize myself. That I have the same, like I have a throat or like hands, working hands, um, which is like the same as everybody else. And I wanna feature that the existence that I have is not because like in this country, I couldn't get a job or a bank account or a driver's license because I didn't have a social security number. Like that identity is so tied to the system. And yeah, I wanna like say, hey, you know, I'm here. I'm human just like you. Um, and um, so yeah, just portraying those moments of my resilience, my being here is enough, you know. Um, and I think that that was coming from that perspective.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's, you know, like showing like your fist. And I think that's those like super close-ups definitely help me personally connect to your film and to your story. And yeah, thank you for so much for making such a story. I'm still so surprised that this was your first film. And I was curious, like, were there any challenges as, you know, because this was your first time learning filmmaking and making film?
Challenges. A lot of technical things because like, you know, I didn't know how to operate like, you know, like I work with my hands, like I make food, you know, but like technical things wherein I don't know how to operate a camera, like how do you do angles and editing. All those are really challenging for me. And when it's like my first time, like sometimes I panic, like I don't know what to do. Is this gonna like explode? That fear. But at the same time, like I had like community, I had like classmates who's like, hey, I'm gonna shoot a film. Can you like come and help me? Hey, I don't know how to do this edit thing. Can you like come and help me do voiceover and everything? And it's such a beautiful experience to be able to learn the technical stuff and not explode in my face, but also at the same time like asking for help when I need it, and like people show up is always such a true thing within our community. And yeah, I'm just blown away by our community.
Yeah, I'm so glad you found like another community with fellow filmmakers. And that's another thing that you talk about in the film, with Cafe Gabriele, like how you are able to be part of the community. I just wanted to ask, how's Cafe Gabriela?
Like Cafe Gabriela is struggling, like we're still in the pandemic. We have lost almost like 80% of our revenue. But what is like so beautiful, like I have been reflecting, is like, even if I do shut down the cafe, like the cafe is not like this like physical entity. It is a physical entity, but the cafe is like a reflection of the connection that we have in our community. And maybe it's done, like the work is done, maybe not. But yeah, we're kind of like hanging in. It's actually, I would love to share some like, joyful news, because we all need joy right now. Like I'm in Florida, um, and hopefully be a recipient in a grant in one of a national queer organizations here, and that would really help. Like, so pray for me and pray for the cafe. Tomorrow we will see if we're able to get like $100,000 grant that would like help support and like keep Cafe Gabriela going. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for building your community too. Um, I'll move to Ellie. And again, like with the editing styles, I was curious, like, how did you make the decision about using the voice recorded letters and the visual of the tape recorders, as because it keeps appearing and it's you uses as like a backbone of the narration. How did you make that decision?
Well, as I say, always like a documentary, we keep writing it like during the preparation, during the shooting, during the editing, like it keeps evolving. And first, when I started to work on the documentary, we wanted to find a protagonist that he did the process of becoming a refugee and who wants and is comfortable to tell his story. And we found it very difficult. We didn't find anybody in Montreal who was like ready to tell his story. There is people who are afraid to tell their stories because they are not out to their families in their countries. So it was very hard to find the protagonist. So during that time, I started reading all the letters that Halem Montreal has received from the past. And it was like letters sent to their Facebook account, Facebook page, or by email, or by text message. And I thought these stories meant a lot for me, because I truly believe that every story needs to be told. And we can't we have like similar stories, but at the same time, different stories. The realities of the LGBT communities in Morocco are different from Lebanon, from Syria. So I want to give voice to these stories. And luckily, I was collaborating also with the other members of Halem Montreal who wanted to give their voice to these stories. And so we decided to record like these letters and make it a big part of this documentary. And after like working, then I found Adib, the main protagonist. And it was a really, the president of the organization called me and he told me like, we found Adib, who was a member of Halem Montreal. He came back to Montreal. So if you want to meet him, and I called him and he said like, I can come to your place. I told him, are you comfortable to film right now? Because I felt that he needed to tell his story and he was excited to tell it. So it was the first time, the day I shot the interview with Adib, it was our first meeting. And I didn't know a lot about his stories. So yeah, we built like a very fast connection because we shared like some similar background. He comes from Syria, I come from Lebanon. Even like I'm not a refugee, I wasn't a refugee, but I think sometimes like one of the reasons I came to Canada is to escape also homophobia from Lebanon. So I think like it's the same. So we've connected really, really fast. And it was really an emotional moment for me. I think I'm privileged like to be like to hear these stories and to build this connection with him. And yeah, so Adib became the main protagonist of the film, but all these stories represents many of us fighting to escape the homophobia and the persecution.
Absolutely. We, in the film, we learn a lot about Adib and his story, but I love that how you combined with, so that it's just like a collaborative voice. I wish I could ask more questions, but I also want to ask some questions for Bren. Bren, the film includes 3 different animations. You know, and I saw in your director's statement that you originally wanted to do claymation or like stop motion animation, but you added the other 2. Could you explain a little bit about like how the film evolved and how you got to mix all that?
Sure. Thank you for the question. Yeah, so Aveo, as I said, I studied film animation at Concordia University. So final year, we're supposed to make a movie, and I thought about with the previous question that I wanted to tell the story of 2 migrants crossing the desert from Mexico to the US. And I thought about like, because this is a absolutely independent film. There was 0 budget. I paid for everything and all my equipment, and I shot it here at home. So it was a lot to think about what is the smartest way to go about this. I think that the story dictates everything else. So first, just thinking about what is the story that I want to tell. These are the characters, this is the story, and then, okay, how do I get there without compromising too much of anything? So I knew I wanted to do stop motion because he would portray, I think, very well the medium of the sand and the rocks and all of the characters and all of that. It's more tangible, and I love the technique. And then slowly, as I was building the story with my classmates and my supervisor as well, they were very helpful with the feedback. Then I came up with the idea of mixing these other techniques. So sand animation, and specifically sand animation for telling the story of one of the protagonists, Nadia, who is a queer teenager. So her story would be told through sand animation, and then at the very end it goes from stop motion to 2D, because the story also it's once they cross the border, the story gets bigger. And it also again was a mix of, okay, this works with this story, and this also, it would have been impossible for me to build that many sets and additional characters and all of that for the ending. So I discussed it and I showed it, and it was very, I think the scariest change of technique was in the end, not so much with Nadia, because it was fairly, I think it was fairly natural to go from the stop motion that already had sand in it in the set to the sand animation, but it wasn't quite so at the beginning for the end when spoilers, I guess, Nadia gets shot and then it goes from stop motion to 2D, and so I had to be careful with the moment I chose to switch techniques so that it wouldn't take you out of the story. And after showing it a bunch and discussing it with my class as well, and thinking and asking if it worked, and that everyone agreed that it did work in that moment, that's how I went about with switching techniques in the last minute or so of the movie. Yeah, but it was an exciting, I mean, I don't, honestly, it's something that I wouldn't do again. But I have no regrets, and I had a lot of fun making the characters and even fixing the characters, because that's the one of the arms of one of the characters broke like 3 times, so I had to, a lot of problem solving, which I think it's the same thing as what I hear everyone describing, right? Like when you do independent cinema, you have to be like so much more, you have to improvise, to learn to improvise and to work with what you have, whether that is like smaller budgets or smaller teams or any kind of constraints. And sometimes I think that it makes the films better, or the end results better for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love the dynamic of different kinds of animation. And I totally agree as an audience member. I think like each specific type of animation genre, animation it just fit perfectly for each moment. And I can't believe it's 7-minute long film. It felt like I just watched a whole feature film. There was just the entire story arc. So thank you so much for making such a strong film. We came to the ending of tonight's program, which is very sad because I had a list of questions ready for all of you. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for making wonderful stories. Thank you for sharing them with us and our audience. So hope you could keep up the good work, whether that's filmmaking or non-filmmaking. Thank you so much. For anyone who hasn't watched the films yet, you still have a few more hours to watch. So please watch the program, the shorts program. And thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night, y'all.